Hi, beautiful people.
Thank you, everybody.
I am Charmaine Warren, and again, if some of you were here for the appetizer pre-show talk, listen up because your assignment is due in just a minute. And I hope that some of the things that we talked about you got to see during the show. You'll hear a lot from Kyle and me, but I want you to hear from them first. So, if the audience could be in your head while you're dancing, what do you hope they would hear? But first, say your name, how long you've been with the company, and if the audience was in your head, what would you hope they could hear? I'll give you an example. I think I've known you for 30 years. Ashe is going to be 26. So
I'm going to be 26, so yeah. Something like that.
Put your arm down. Long time. So I watched Donovan and Gianna, and I thought, OG love. And then I saw this one at the beginning, and I thought, fire. That's what I thought, wanted the audience to hear in my head as an audience member. You were performers. Introduce yourself, how long, and if they could.
Hi, I'm Alysia Johnson, and I've been with A.I.M for almost 2 years now. And for me, I think you would probably hear me calling out what I see in this show, whether it's people, and trying to use them as my inspiration. Sometimes I say someone's name and then it evokes a movement or more reach or more dynamic, something different there. And then I'm also thinking about grief and also celebration and making space for those thoughts that come up. And a little bit of just breathe, relax. You got 4 more to go, but yeah.
Hi, y'all. I'm Destin Morisset. I've been in the company for a year now. Yeah, when I'm dancing, usually there's colors. There's blue, grays, reds, greens, oranges. So you'll probably go through a palette of just colors. Most of the time with white space, either struggle for me and my character, or community, how I feel when community is on stage with me, how I feel when I connect with somebody. You might hear sound effects like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. You might hear all of it. But yeah, it goes in between all of that, yeah.
You, kind sir?
I'm actually trying to not think. I think just before I walk on stage for the beginning bit, about a journey that I want to go on. I want to start off thinking about different possibilities of movement. I'm thinking in the beginning about Skinner or Susan Klein technique and moving from the bones, and then I started thinking about body-mind centering and moving from the kidneys, and then I think about its relationship to hip-hop and contemporary forms, and try to take myself on a journey in that brief bit of time that I'm on stage to process all of these different things that I love. There's a little ballet moment, a little Horton, all these things that have been part of my journey. I try and toss in as like a amuse-bouche for what you're gonna see this evening, or this afternoon.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask them a few more questions. And then in the meantime, I want you to think of all the lovely things that you want to say and frame them in a form of a question. And then we'll come back to you in a bit. Coolness? Coolness. All right. So, you two, Alysia and Destin, again, were you with Kyle at the top of white space?
Both of us, yeah, we were there. Just a thought, a seedling. And it's been almost, I think it's been a year, a little bit more than a year, perhaps.
Yes,
Yeah.
both of you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know Kyle usually will start or thinking about the process months before we even start. So I would say maybe even 2 years.
A little birdie told me it's been up in your head for a long time. Okay, Kyle loves collaborators, including A.I.M. What might some of the gems that Risa, Charlotte left with you in the beginning, and is it still hot now?
I would say Risa and Charlotte, a lot of the advice and suggestions.
I should say Risa Steinberg,
Yes.
artistic advisor, Charlotte Braithwaite, dramaturge.
Yes. Along the process, it was more of a focus. How do we connect with each other on stage? How do we connect with each other off stage? Staying in the world, that was the most important for us as a group. Because there is a lot of solos and a lot of duets, but White Space, the whole time, we're trying to connect with each other. We're trying to connect in happiness, we're trying to connect in struggle, we're trying to connect in grief. There's so many different ways. Even how I connect with the pianists on the side. They may not be on stage, but I'm still listening to them, I'm still reacting to them, different ways, yeah.
I would add to that, we spent a lot of hours and times together not focused necessarily on movement, and also in conversation with each other about the possibilities, physically, psychologically, all of that. And then they really helped shape that first question you asked, the internal dialogue of it too. So sometimes there's singing that's going on in my head by advice and suggestion of them, which is really helpful because you don't want to be in your head doing a show. So they help create this sort of energy and tension and color that, kind of pushes the piece in a way where I felt like, oh, this is where I risk something. This is where I can be playful and or just asking a lot of questions too. So there was a lot of curiosity on their part that led us to be more curious, and then hope you saw something today.
Wait, today, what happened today?
No, I just hope you saw some of those curiosities, and also, we can take on their role a little bit, how they invoke curiosity in us. Maybe we can share that with the audience too.
Was there a risky thing today that we didn't see? Okay, I knew that. I don't remember his name, so help me, Kyle. In the blue. Micaiah Gorey, yes. Micaiah Gorey, and I prayed for that balance. I prayed, and the last 2 nights, Micaiah just, it was a whole thing, and it happened. So was there a risk today for either of you?
I would say on the thought of collaboration, it's always a risk because it's so alive, and thinking about the music, shifting tempo, shifting phrasing, and also there was a little spider on stage. Yeah, right there. So that was a little risky. I don't know if the front row saw it.
Our co-star, yeah.
Yes. So, you try not to think about it, but also it was there from the beginning to the end somehow. It's still with us, yeah.
Not dessert, though. I'm just saying, not dessert. What about you?
Yeah, that spider. I was jumping in and out of the floor trying to know what that spider. I would say every night is a risk. Like from my last solo, how can I really connect with Micaiah, but not directly focusing on him? Knowing that he is a being there in the space with me, supporting me, but also, like I said, how is Derek on the keys, connecting with me, and all that. Even when I'm frozen, everybody just leaves me on stage, still leaving the energy with them there's risks every night.
And you and the balloon, too. Is that coordinated, the popping?
The popping, yes. It goes back and forth, yeah.
Thanks. You.
Hello.
So I talked about Charlotte and Risa, and I think you should talk about the other collaborators. Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to say. From the beginning when I wrote that email to you, and I said, did you say blank to them, remember?
Yes. Several of the collaborators that we can name that I didn't name previously because they weren't here tonight. The composers are Nico Muhly and Jason Moran. And it's just, yes, massive shout out to them. I also just want to acknowledge, my dancers and Jessica, my rehearsal. Yes, Mike Morris. She's an awesome. There she is. In the early part of the process, I was talking to them about how interested I was in both Jason's music and Nico's music, and everyone was like, "Well, why don't you just ask them both?" And I love that they were open and curious to kind of even just say, why not ask them both? Which is how we got to where we got to, right? So I love that. The costume design is Reed Bartlemy and Harriet Jung. Yes. I've worked with them over the years in different ways. I think one of the things that I think about when I reach out to them to collaborate is if I really don't know what I want to do for costumes and I know that it's not gender specific, they are great collaborators in that way because I think they don't usually think about costuming in a gendered way. So it's always great to kind of bring them in. So I worked with Jason and Nico before in different capacities. There's Jason and I did a project together at the Underground Museum in Los Angeles, which is no more, but it was an amazing space, and it was like a pop-up performance where it just we like maybe rehearsed that day and did the thing. Russell, I think he might have been there that day. That was just a really fun opportunity to kind of just be free and dance and collaborate with an artist. And then during the pandemic, we did a couple things together as well. Nico, there's a long story there that I won't go into, but I was commissioned to make a work in Lyon, France for Les Subsistances years ago, I think 2014. And it was all to Nico's music. It was maybe 4 choreographers all commissioned to make these works for Nico. And so I met him then. I won't get into it, but I was injured and was in a wheelchair when I was supposed to be on stage. But we really connected, changed the title of the piece and everything because I still had to perform, I had to get paid. So by hook or crook, I was gonna do something. If it's the robot, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get that check. But it's Nico, yeah, and a coin, But so that's them. Dan Scully, my lighting designer. We've been collaborating. Yes, Dan. Yes. Dan and I have collaborated since 2004. He's my longest collaborator, an artistic relationship, and it's one of the things I always say about Dan is. And working with any of these collaborators over and over again, it's that there's this Kelly Rowland's quote where someone's talking to her about Beyonce, and they say, "I heard Beyonce came to your show and gave you notes," and was trying to be shady about it. And she's like, "Yes, all my friends come to my shows and give me notes." And she said, "I want to surround myself with iron because iron sharpens iron." And Dan is like that for me. Dan will tell me when he doesn't think something's good. Jessica will do the same thing. She's given me a C on something. But it's beautiful because then I can go back and I say, yeah, I really need to redo that. And the dancers in that same way. There was a work we had earlier in the year that they kept it 100 with me and told me I had to get back in the lab. So I did that, and I think we got it to a great piece. It's another work in our repertory. But that's, I think, the collaborators I didn't. Yes, the illustrious Glenn Ligon on scenic design, who's also on my board. Yes. Yeah, Glenn and I have worked together since 2012 to 2014 is when we made our first work together. We did two evenings of work with 2 different scenic designs, and he's been a wonderful thought partner and kind of dreaming partner.
So this is a one-word response, request for a one-word response. I just gave you 15 and asked you for one, right? So with all of that, from more than a year ago, because it's more than a year ago, right? Where are you now?
I'll say transcending.
I gave you extra time.
I'll say hopeful.
All right, we'll take it. All right, Kyle, guess what we have to do now? We got to get deep into the why did it come about, where did it come about, what are some of the symbols, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Talk about symbolisms?
I think I'll probably be slightly cheeky when
Yes.
you get there, but we'll see.
Well, I'm kind of being cheeky myself.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
But yeah, some of the, well, let me start with one.
Okay.
There's the group over here, and one dancer is falling and they're picking the dancer up. and it happens a couple times, and many times before that dancer stands up. What might you be asking the audience to dream about?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, but I am curious about support. What does that look like? How and when are we standing and feeling like we can stand on our own? When do we feel grounded? When do we feel seen? When do we feel strong? When do we need support? How do we grieve? How do we grieve with others? All of those things are possible questions that I'm thinking about, but it doesn't mean I require anyone to think about those.
Shall I throw another one out at you? Or do you want to take more? The snow.
It's white.
Okay, in 2025, in December.
Yes, it was snowing here at the Jacob's Pillow. We were here doing a creative residency pillow lab. And it was just, the snow was beautiful, and it was white. Our white space. That was a big part of it, really. I don't want to, that's really a big part of it. I think there's something about the imagery and the innocence of snow that I am curious about. I'm also curious about how it can maybe make one think about memory. And it's...
How about the timing of the placement of the snow in the show? I just made a rhyme.
Hello.
Because you could have put it anywhere.
I suppose. I think, that duet...
The OG duet that Charmaine was talking about.
That's what you called it, the OG. Oh yes, with Gianna Theodore and Donovan Reed. That duet. I think when I started making it very early on in the process, I started thinking about elements in that way. So I think that came in for me. But also the snow and the falling of this small white thing was also to be a setup for the balloons as well, as this larger white thing that is in the space, sometimes hovering, sometimes going up, sometimes coming down. But that was to be thinking about maybe like the scale of these white things floating in the space and being in the space.
And I was actually going to ask about the balloons next, but maybe I'll throw it your way, you too. Any other symbolisms that come to mind that came in at the top of the making of this work, and then when it happens, you go, oh yeah. You were talking to Tony, my husband, after the dress, and you said, that was supposed to come down.
Yeah, one came down today, which is good, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're in their own time, the balloons, in the best way.
In the best way.
Yeah. I love that freedom in those balloons. If any of you, just because we're at the Pillow, probably I know I would say it anywhere, but if you've seen the Merce Cunningham work, Rainforest, they have mylar clouds that are a work of Andy Warhol's Silver Clouds, and that played a role and an inspiration in me thinking about trying to explore this kind of hovering balloon of sorts. So,
Thanks for that.
No
Kyle.
problem.
Friends, those symbolisms.
Yes, I'll start. So throughout the process, we played with the balloons in a couple of different ways, and they do have a mind of their own. And something about balloons and the way we use them, also it kind of allowed me to have like this sense of like wonder and awe, and then influence like the juxtaposition of feelings you may feel within the piece. And it comes at a time, I don't know, I think it's such a cool thing what Kyle does with humor and other things. And also, for me, the balloons can be a distraction and a reminder to focus on the things that also really matter. And what does that mean? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for us? And so it nods to those things for me. I think I also continue to think about like celebration, and we use balloons for a lot of those reasons. And then sometimes it flips and they become scary. I heard someone in the audience, I think a kid, they got a little scared or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, us too up here. But it's also another sound element too. I think when Destin's using it, sometimes it also looks like a sport thing to me. I don't know anything about sports, but
I mean,
it kind of looks like a
Nick,
sport
come on,
thing.
we are in New York.
Yes. So that's what I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. The balloons in the beginning during the pre-show when we're in our warm-ups, it's almost like setting like lanterns for me in the sky, and you expect them to fall down, but sometimes those could be memories that get lost up in the atmosphere. Even when they come back for my solo, or right before my solo, Luke Simpson comes in. His is more playful, almost like a kid and during recess, jumpy, doing tricks. And then when it goes up, it's like, oh, like my balloon, you know? And then when Nia Smith comes in with the colorful ones and the popping, it can almost symbolize violence in a way. And also while I'm doing my solo, it can even affect the way my body, I'm still feeling the same way you guys are feeling. I'm getting shocked by it. That first pop gets me every time. I'm reacting and then sometimes not reacting, but she can't see me, but she knows when to pop in at the right time. It works, like I said, that risk-taking every time. That timing, it always shifts. But then when that last balloon, when Micaiah gives it to me, it's almost like a sense of hope in a way. How much struggle have I gone through this whole journey, and how am I finally going to be restful or happy, or just a sense of like everything's fine. And I think it's all those emotions are in that balloon, and then I let it go.
Oh my gosh, the topic of the pre-show talk was, are you up in your feelings?
Oh.
I know, right? So I hope, y'all were a little bit spicy today, and I appreciate that. I'm thinking that that's because we had a little chat before, yes? You're welcome. Kyle, speaking of funny, how much do you want to say about you being up in that corner during Gianna's? Because tell us, because I did not know until Dress and Sue Young goes, that's Kyle back there.
Yeah, what can I say? Several things. And I've always wanted to make a dance it's going to be called Ode to Brenda. Anyone who's seen the Scary Movie franchise, in the first Scary Movie, yes, for Brenda, it's scene 13 on the first DVD. It's her in the movie theater. It is one of my favorite things. Well, you could do this. Yes.
Let's do it together.
Yes, there's something so obnoxious and ridiculous and amazing about that I've wanted to make a dance that's just that. But some of those sounds, we've all experienced those things. And this show, a lot of it is that theater experience. It's all of these different things. So a lot of what I'm doing are the things that can drive us crazy. But it's also, as a performer, there are these moments where, like Alysia was saying, and Destin as well, like when you're on stage, you want to be as present as possible. You don't want these intrusive thoughts to come into your mind. You don't want to be thinking about, oh, Drag Race, come on tonight. Like, you don't want to be thinking about that kind of thing, right? You want to be focused. And so, like, the person in the audience is like, where's my phone? Yeah, it looks like Martha Graham. Yeah. Oh, come on. And you want to root for someone too, but also as you're dancing, you're thinking, as you're trying to find your center or whatever, you're like, oh yeah, my pinky toe. Yeah, my greater trochanter. All of these things are part of these thought processes you can have as a performer. So that's a big part of it, because I think there's a whole other element to this work where this white space is a space where it's a canvas. We can be free, and the music that you're entering the theater in, this kind of pre-show music, this trip hop music from like the late 90s, mid to late 90s to the early aughts, is a time where I felt as a dancer my most free. It was the beginnings of my dance journey. And so a lot of that freedom, I wanted to make the space for it, both for my dancer collaborators, but also for myself and the ridiculousness of that Foley work, but also in the explorations that I get to have when I'm on stage as well. But that's a big part of it. Even when you're looking at there's a section in the middle of towards the end of the work, actually just before that text bit, where we're really throwing in other aspects or elements of strengths of the dancers. Olivia Wang is doing some Martha Graham technique. Luke Simpson's going in his ballet bag. And all of this, there's, Donovan Reed is going into the Vogue vocabulary. Destin is, his hip hop bag. Alysia, there's so many bags in there. She got the School of American Ballet Theater bag in there too. Yeah, so all of that is part of we can do this, and we can question these ideas of what is technique, right? It's all technique, and no one form needs to be viewed as more important or valuable and the like. So even as you think about the pathway from the moment we first start dancing in a more realized way to hip hop to ending this work with Schubert, we're still in our hip hop bag. It's just Schubert. So it's all important, and it's all value.
This is a one-word request response.
Okay, I'll be tighter on my answer.
No, just for you. This is just for you. It's been a minute since you've been on the stage. And today, and for the rest of the life of this piece, you're going to show up probably, right? Probably.
Maybe.
Maybe. How does it feel? One word.
Free.
Yeah.
Yes, very free.
Okay, so I think we might have time for one burning question.
Thank you for that. Yes. What works after seeing White Space? What I recommend for people to see? Honestly, I probably there's so many. See them all. There's a work that premiered just before this one, an evening length work called Cassette Volume 1, and it is beyond the opposite of this, but at the same time, it's still free. It's ridiculous. It's camp. It's all 80s and early 90s pop and R&B, and it's a kind of another kind of love letter. This, in some ways, is a love letter to movement and my love of movement. That is a love letter to the freedoms that I felt as a child. So I think seeing that also frees up an audience to say, well, I don't know where they're going to go next, but I'm going to go. Right? I think that's part of the thing that I've always been interested in. How can you show up without expectations? I'm not interested in doing the same dance every time, because why? What's the point? I love the work that we work on after this is a work set to the music of Kendrick Lamar's music, and it's a whole other thing. The last time we were here at Jacob's Pillow, we did a program to D'Angelo called Untitled Love. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and then the project that came after that was a work called "Dear Lord, Make Me Beautiful" at the Park Avenue Armory with classical music by Y Music. So it's thank you. Yeah, it's just good to shift and change and evolve. So I'd probably say cassette, because I think it will make you hopefully curious to see what else is in our crazy bag. Yeah.
Y'all, I'm sorry I didn't give you more time, but read the little thing I wrote. Find them and come back. Come back. Thank you so much. You're a fabulous, spicy audience.
Thank you, everyone.